He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Today, a friend of mine will explain it to you.
Imagine for a second a time-traveling psychological diagnostician. Sounds crazy, right? But that is exactly what reading Friedrich Nietzsche feels like today. He was writing way back in the late 19th century, but honestly, it's like he was peering directly into our modern smartphones, studying our digital habits, and predicting the exact comfort trap of the 21st century over 150 years ago. He warned us about this terrifying societal evolution, and in today's explainer, we're going to break down exactly what he saw coming.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have we finally invented happiness? I mean, it's a question that really strikes at the core of our daily routines. Just look at how we live right now. We've got endless binge watching, algorithms that literally anticipate our every need, food delivered right to our doorstep with a single tap. We call this progress, right? We call this happiness. But Nietzsche's work forces us to ask a deeply, deeply uncomfortable question. Have our highly curated, frictionless lives actually cured human suffering, or have they merely masked a deep, festering existential dread?
To answer that, we really have to look at the stark contrast Nietzsche draws here. On one side, you have our endless, exhausting pursuit of economic security. We treat money and comfort like a literal fortress, a wall we've built to keep out need, want, pain, and any sort of unpredictability. But on the other side? Well, Nietzsche diagnoses this exact pursuit as the reality of spiritual decay. By shrinking from any real risk, by choosing these safe, timid lives and running away from true emotional investment, we've created a stagnant human spirit. We've basically traded the magnificent, raw chaos of living for safe, perfectly plotted routes.
And that brings us right to Pillar 1, the profit of comfort.
Nietzsche saw our society eagerly embracing this totally domesticated, tranquilized version of happiness. We didn't want the magnificent highs and the agonizing lows of true existence anymore. No, we just wanted the happiness of resting, of not being disturbed. And he called the ultimate product of this society the last man. This is a type of human who only cares for survival, adaptation, and blending in. To the last man, intense ambition or wanting to create bold new values isn't admirable. It's actually seen as a dangerous disease that disrupts the peace. The last man just wants to live as long as possible, moderately enjoying some small virtues and small vices. And lest we think he was talking about some imaginary sci-fi character, he was talking about you and me.
In his absolute masterpiece, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche summarizes this tragic irony with this incredibly heavy, haunting line, "We have invented happiness," say the last men, and they blink. They blink because they are practically sleepwalking. They have completely abandoned the regions where it was hard to live, trading the intense, chaotic beauty of the real world for a sterile, padded room.
But here's the kicker. That padding doesn't actually remove suffering, it just mutates it. Which takes us to Pillar 2, the disease of resentment. And this brilliantly illustrates a huge modern paradox. If we are all so comfortable, why are our social media feeds just a constant, endless stream of outrage? Why is our digital climate so incredibly toxic? Well, Nietzsche gives us the hidden psychological mechanism driving this, ressentiment. It's a mental attitude born entirely from impotence. It happens when vengeful impulses lose touch with an actual physical target and turn completely psychological. It's the bitter outrage of people who feel deprived, but instead of actually doing something to improve their own state, they weaponize their suffering. They disguise their deep envy as moral self-righteousness, just to tear down and shackle anyone who refuses to conform to the masses.
You can clearly see this when you look at the anatomy of a modern online outrage campaign. Step 1 is a perceived slight, usually something totally trivial that just happens to offend modern sensibilities. Step 2 is a venomous, highly public reaction. And Step 3, herd validation. Our modern algorithms perfectly, and I mean perfectly, incentivize this disease. They reward these venomous reactions with massive visibility, artificially elevating the status of the offended person while punishing whoever dared to step out of line. It turns out a 19th century philosopher perfectly predicted the mechanics of Twitter.
Nietzsche called this slave morality, which is driven completely by a herd mentality. And it's vital to point out here, looking at the sources, that this is absolutely not a partisan issue. Whether you're looking at left-wing cancel culture or right-wing moral panics, Nietzsche's critique applies impartially to any group using collective outrage to establish this universal green pasture happiness that punishes individual greatness. Across the board, it's really just disguising envy as moral self-righteousness to enforce conformity.
Which pushes us even further down into the abyss, arriving at Pillar 3, the death of meaning.
This is where we have to confront his famous and often totally misunderstood warning that God is dead. He wasn't throwing a party for atheism here. He was diagnosing the historical collapse of objective truths. Back in the 19th century, the death of God meant that the very idea of a divine safety net was just no longer believable for the modern mind. Then, in the 20th century, we tried to replace that safety net with consumerism, using money and material stuff as a fortress against the cold reality of a meaningless universe. And now, in the 21st century, we've retreated into this algorithm-driven life world, seeking fake digital salvation through likes, metrics, and echo chambers, all just to protect ourselves from the frightening reality of an unpredictable world.
Now, this collapse inevitably leads to nihilism. But listen, nihilism isn't just that dark, moody aesthetic of wearing black and being cynical about everything. Nietzsche actually split it into two phases. Passive nihilism is what most of us do. We feel despair, we get disillusioned, and we just seek comfort in prepackaged societal truths, maybe a political ideology or an algorithmic identity. Active nihilism, on the other hand, is a brutal but necessary reality check. It requires us to recognize the total emptiness of those old illusions, abandon our dependence on them, and actively create new values from scratch.
So, the crucial point is, how do we actually test those new values once we create them? That brings us to Pillar 4, Amor Fati and the Eternal Recurrence.
Nietzsche didn't just leave us drowning in the death of meaning. He provided an ultimate, uncompromising psychological test. I want you to imagine this. A demon creeps into your loneliest loneliness and whispers this to you. The eternal hourglass of existence will ever be turned over and over again, and you with it. The test is simply this. Would you live your exact life, down to every single pain, every mistake, every heartbreak, and every fleeting joy, an infinite number of times, exactly as it happened?
Now, he isn't making some literal claim about the physics of the universe. This is a crushing psychological weight. This infinity symbol forcefully strips away every single one of your excuses. Because if you have to live this exact moment for all of eternity, you can't push off your dreams until tomorrow. You can't just blame your childhood. It demands radical, terrifying accountability for every single choice you are making right now. If you wouldn't want to repeat an action for eternity, you must stop doing it immediately. To actually pass this test requires a concept Nietzsche called Amor Fati, love your fate. And this goes way, way beyond just tolerating your struggles. It means wanting absolutely nothing to be different. Not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. True greatness requires loving your fate exactly as it is right now. It means fully embracing the magnificent monsters of passion and suffering in your life, rather than numbing them with that tranquilizing, mind-numbing comfort of the last man.
And that intense, raw affirmation launches us right into our final section, Pillar 5, Becoming the Architect. If you can actually pass the test of the eternal recurrence, if you can truly love your fate, well then you are ready to stop being a last man. You are ready to aim for the Übermensch, commonly translated as the Overman. And we really need to demystify this concept. The Overman is not some comic book superhero, and it is definitely not a biological superior. It is simply a state of relentless self-overcoming. It is the active, painful dissolution of your own safe, comfortable ego so that you can become a pure creator of values. It's about shedding all those fake masks you wear for society so you can finally engage with the raw intensity of life. Because true psychological freedom isn't a gift, it is earned through self-overcoming. You have to willingly destroy your safe identity. Instead of running from conflict like we're taught to, you actually have to embrace it constructively. You absolutely must shed your attachment to the herd and their endless algorithmic outrage. And ultimately, you have to stop treating your life like it's some math equation to be solved, and start treating it as a dynamic, evolving work of art to be actively sculpted.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it completely flips everything our modern society teaches us totally upside down. Your life is not a safe shelter. You are not put here to just survive, consume content, and blink in a state of tranquilized happiness. Nietzsche is challenging you to step right out of that padded room, step away from the herd, and step directly into the bewildering chaos and beauty of the real world. You have to treat your existence as a grand, unscripted adventure.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I'm leaving you staring at a pretty stark challenge regarding the immediate trajectory of your own life. Look closely at your daily routines, your modern comforts, and your compromises. If the demon's hourglass flits today, will you cower in the comfortable algorithmic trap of the last man, or will you fiercely will your life to recur? The choice, as always, is entirely yours.